I would ask everyone to stand for the invocation and remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. Tonight's invocation is being offered by the Most Reverend David R. Chobe, Bishop of the Catholic Diocese of Nashville, and he is the guest of Councilman Buddy Baker.
Let us pray. Almighty God, you are the source of all that is good and true. You bless us with manifold gifts, and you offer us the opportunities to use those gifts for the good of others. Guide us by your Spirit, a spirit of wisdom and understanding. May the gift of that Spirit help us to understand not only the gifts that you have bestowed upon us, but most especially the needs of our community. You bless us with many good things, and you bless the city of Nashville with many opportunities. We ask you to continue to bestow upon our city those blessings. In a special way, do we pray for all of those who are victims to the recent flooding. Bless them with a spirit of courage, a spirit of patience, a spirit of generosity in their service to one another. Together, as your people, may we work together to build up our community and to bring the goodness and justice to all that we encounter. We ask this in Christ's name. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Without objection, we'll suspend the calling of the roll and ask the clerk to record the names of the members present throughout the meeting. Is there a motion for adoption of the minutes of our July 6th meeting? Without objection, the minutes will stand approved as written. Madam Clerk, are there any messages from the mayor?
No, ma'am, there are not.
Thank you. Before we move forward with our agenda, we have a custom in the council before elections that candidates can introduce themselves and say their name and what office they're running for. First, I would like to start with Councilman Gatto.
Thank you, Madam Vice Mayor. Jim Gatto, I'm a candidate for the 60th seat in the Tennessee House of Representatives. Appreciate your vote.
Councilman Crafton.
Sorry, I was talking with the staff. Please repeat.
You state your name and what office you're on the ballot for.
Okay, I am Councilman Eric Crafton. I'm running for the office of Juvenile Court Clerk, and I would appreciate your vote.
Thank you. Councilman Dominy.
Thank you. I'm Dwayne Dominy. I'm a candidate for the 59th State House District in Southeast Davidson County.
Thank you. Councilman Coleman.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I'm Sam Coleman. I'm running for the state legislature, 60th House District seat. I appreciate your vote.
Thank you. Is there anyone in the audience? If you are, please come to the lectern and state your name and what you're running for.
Thank you, Vice Mayor, members of the council. I'm David Smith. I'm a candidate for Juvenile Court Clerk in the August 5th general election. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else? Just as a reminder, we will be doing this at the beginning of our next meeting. Thank you. We have one presentation this evening. Councilman McGuire.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. And I would ask if any council members who are supportive of the arts and arts education, and in particular the Frist Center for the Visual Arts, to come forward and join me. I am joined by a constituent of mine, Miss Anna Henderson. Ann was recently given the award of the Art Educator of the Year, and so this resolution is recognizing that. Whereas Ann Henderson, Director of Education and Outreach at the Frist Center for the Visual Arts, was selected by the National Art Education Association to receive the 2010 National Museum Education Art Educator of the Year Award at the NAEA National Convention in Baltimore, Maryland, April 14th through the 18th, 2010. And whereas this award recognizes the exemplary contributions, service, and achievements of one outstanding NAEA member annually at the national level within his or her division, and whereas NAEA is the professional association for art educators whose members include elementary, secondary, middle, and high school art teachers, university and college professors, education directors who oversee education in our nation's fine art museums, administrators and supervisors who oversee art education in school districts, state departments of education, arts councils, and artists throughout the United States and many foreign countries. And whereas this distinction brings with it a national recognition of Metro Nashville as a community that places significant importance on arts education and education in general, and that Nashville is a city that has an abiding admiration of the greatest artistic accomplishments of humanity. And whereas study and appreciation of the arts is vital to developing critical thinking skills, effective communication, and a greater appreciation for the diversity and richness of the different cultures and histories of the world. And whereas it is fitting and proper that the Metropolitan Council recognize Ann Henderson for the honor that she has brought to herself and thereby to Metro Nashville. It's adopted July 6, 2010, signed under my hand, as well as Vice Mayor Diane Neighbors, and I believe also Councilman Ronnie Stein was a sponsor. And this is certainly a wonderful honor, and it's well-deserved, and you are certainly an asset to Nashville. But I would also be remiss if I didn't mention quickly that I actually personally got to know Ann because of the flood. Her home was significantly damaged, and the courage and spirit that she has shown throughout the past couple months has been incredibly admirable and humbling, to say the least. So, Ann, this is a wonderful honor. Congratulations to you.
Thank you. Thank you, Councilman McGuire. It's been my honor to get to know you recently, and it's certainly my privilege to accept this recognition from the city of Nashville, and it has touched me very deeply. I appreciate Councilman Stein's support as well, and all of your support for the Frist Center and for the importance of the arts in Nashville. I would also be remiss if I did not acknowledge the support I received from the Frist Center itself, from our director, Susan Edwards, who is here with me, and I appreciate her support and her working with Councilman McGuire to make this happen. That's most touching, as well as the wonderful support from my staff, as well as the Board of Trustees at the Frist Center for the Visual Arts, because they all support education and outreach and realize how important it is for this community. So thank you all for this honor. Thank you.
Councilman Hunt, did you wish to recognize your visitors?
Thank you, Madam Vice Mayor. I'd like to take this opportunity to recognize Troop 219, who meets at McKendree United Methodist Church, and they serve youth from all over Davidson County. In attendance, and you may stand as I call your name, is A.J. Sharp, Benton Moore, John McDonald, Keith Swanson, Linda Patton, Dwayne Jackson, Jamal Jackson, Kelton Young, Neil Cole, and with them are the leaders, which is Mr. Hugh Jackson and Steve Moore, along with my favorite, Rita McDonald, who is a parent volunteer. Thank you so much for coming.
Now we're at the point on our agenda for elections and confirmations. Councilmember Page.
Thank you. The Rules and Confirmation Committee considered 5 appointments to various boards and commissions. First, the committee considered the appointments of Mr. King Hollins and Mr. Frank Stevens to the Human Relations Commission. We recommend approval, 8 in favor, 0 against. I move approval.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion passes.
The committee then considered the reappointment of Mr. Chris Webby to the Plumbing Examiners and Appeals Board, we recommend approval, 8 in favor, 0 against. I move approval.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes.
Amy Atkinson and Mary Griffin are deferred.
Thank you. When I call your name, please stand. King Hollins, Frank Stevenson, and Chris Webby. On behalf of the Metro Council, I'd like to thank you for your willingness to serve our city and to volunteer your time and expertise. Thank you very much. We're now at the point on our agenda for resolutions. The first is RS 2010-1248, approves the amended charter and bylaws for the newly created Nashville Education, Community, and Arts Television Corporation. Councilman Claiborne.
Committee reports, please.
Councilman Stein.
Budget and Finance approved as amended, 11-4, none against.
Councilman Claiborne.
Personnel Public Information approved as amended, 5-4-0 against. And so I need to move the amendment, which is in essence a correction of some typographical errors that were in the text. There's no change to the document other than the corrections.
We have a motion and a second on the amendment. All in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. Amendment passes. Councilman Claiborne.
Move the bill as amended.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. Next is RS 2010-1270, provides amendments to the Metropolitan Charter and set forth a brief description of each amendment to be placed on the ballot. Councilman Tiger.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Committee report, please.
Councilman Foster.
Thank you, Madam Vice Mayor. The committee voted to defer indefinitely, 5-4-0 against.
Thank you. Councilman Tiger.
Move to defer indefinitely.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor of indefinite deferral, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Indefinite deferral passes. RS 2010-1271 approves an amendment to an intergovernmental agreement between the Metropolitan Government and the Sports Authority related to the Nashville Arena. Councilman Stein.
Committee report.
Councilman Cole.
Convention and Tourism voted to approve, 7-4-0 against.
Councilman Stein.
Budget approved, 11-4, none against. I move approval.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion passes. RS 2010-1272 approves an amendment to an annual state grant to the Davidson County Juvenile Court to enforce federal and state mandated child support guidelines concerning children born out of wedlock. Councilman Baker.
Committee report, please.
Councilman Stein.
Budget approved, 11-4, none against.
Councilman Baker. I think that was your only committee report.
Move approval.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. Next is RS 2010-1273, approves an intergovernmental agreement between the Davidson County Juvenile Court and the Williamson County Juvenile Court for the temporary housing of female juvenile detainees. Councilman Baker.
Committee report.
Councilman Stein.
Budget approved, 11-4, none against.
Councilman Baker. We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion passes. Next is RS 2010-1274, provides all state cable video franchise holders operating within the area of the Metropolitan Government are required to include the amount of franchise fees paid to the Metropolitan Government in the calculation of gross revenue. Councilman Stein.
Committee report.
Councilman Claiborne.
Personnel Public Information voted 5-4-0 against.
Councilman Stein.
Budget approved, 11-4, none against. I move approval.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion passes. Next is RS 2010-1275, accepts the state grant to the Nashville Career Advancement Center to establish programs and deliver services to create temporary jobs to assist in the flood cleanup and restoration efforts. Councilman Stein.
Committee report.
Councilman Claiborne.
Personnel Public Information voted 5-4-0 against.
Councilman Stein.
Budget approved 11-4, none against. I move approval.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion passes. Next is RS 2010-1276. Approves an amendment to a contract between the State Department of Labor and Workforce Development to the Nashville Career Advancement Center to make resources available for on-the-job training of new and existing employees at Al Surian. Councilman Stein.
Committee reports.
Councilman Claiborne.
Personnel Public Information voted 5-4-0 against.
Councilman Stein.
Budget approved 11-4, none against. I move approval.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. Next is RS 2010-1277, approves a state grant to the Nashville Career Advancement Center to provide space and access to employment and training programs administered through the Workforce Investment Act. Councilman Stein.
Committee reports.
Councilman Claiborne.
Personnel Public Information voted 5-4-0 against.
Councilman Stein.
Budget approved 11-4, none against. I move approval.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion passes. RS 2010-1278 approves an application for a federal workplace anti-discrimination grant to the Metro Human Relations Commission.
Committee
Councilman
reports.
Stein. Councilman Claiborne.
Personnel Public Information voted 5-4-0 against.
Councilman Stein.
Budget approved 11-4, none against. I move approval.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion passes. Next is RS 2010-1279, approves a grant from the Greenways for Nashville to Metro Parks Department to provide funding for the salary and benefits of the Executive Coordinator of Greenways. Councilman Stein.
Committee reports.
Councilman Matthews.
Parks voted 7-4-0 against.
Councilman Stein.
Budget approved 11-4, none against. I move approval.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion passes. RS 2010-1280 authorizes the Director of Public Property Administration to exercise an option to purchase 2.96 acres of property located at Old Glen Rose Avenue to be used by the Mill Creek Greenway. Councilman Stein.
Committee reports.
Councilman Matthews.
Parks voted 7-4-0 against.
Councilman Gatto.
Planning and zoning approved 10-4-0 against.
Councilman Stein.
Budget approved 11-4, none against. I move approval.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion passes. Next is RS 2010-1281, submits to the Metro Planning Commission a proposed plan of services for the extension of the boundaries of the Urban Services District for property in the Bellevue area along Old Hickory Boulevard between Interstate 40 and Highway 70 South. Councilman Crafton.
Committee report.
Councilman Gatto.
Planning and zoning approved 10-4-0 against.
Councilman Crafton.
Move approval.
Second. Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. Next is RS 2010-1282, appropriates additional federal grant funds to the Metro Action Commission to support the Head Start program. Councilman Stein.
Committee reports.
Councilman Tiger.
Health hospitals approved 6-0.
Councilman Stein.
Budget approved 11-4, none against. I move approval.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion passes. RS 2010-1283 approves an application for a grant from the Greater Nashville Regional Council to Metro Social Services Commission for meal delivery services to eligible seniors. Councilman Stein.
Committee reports.
Councilman Tiger.
Health hospitals approved 6-0.
Councilman Stein.
Budget approved 11-4, none against. I move approval.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion passes. RS 2010-1284 approves an application for a grant from the Greater Nashville Regional Council to Metro Social Services Commission to provide personal care services. Councilman Stein.
Committee reports.
Councilman Tiger.
Health hospitals approved 6-0.
Councilman Stein.
Budget approved 11-4, none against. I move approval.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion passes. RS 2010-1285 approves a grant application for a grant from the Greater Nashville Regional Council to the Metro Social Services Commission to provide transportation to eligible seniors and handicapped residents. Councilman Stein.
Committee reports.
Councilman Tiger.
Health hospitals approved 6-0.
Councilman Stein.
Budget approved 11-4, none against. I move approval.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion passes. RS 2010-1286 approves a clinical affiliation agreement between the Metro Board of Health and Belmont University to provide clinical experience to students. Councilman Stein.
Committee reports.
Councilman Tiger.
Health hospitals approved 6-0.
Councilman Stein.
Budget approved 11-4, none against. I move approval.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion passes. RS 2010-1287 approves a second amendment to a grant from the American Legacy Foundation to the Metro Board of Health to test the effectiveness of the smoke-free home and car pledges. Councilman Stein.
Committee reports.
Councilman Tiger.
Health hospitals approved 6-0.
Councilman Stein.
Budget approved 11-4, none against. I move approval.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion passes. RS 2010-1288 approves a second amendment to a contract between the Metro Board of Health and the United Way of Metro Nashville to arrange for assistance in services for minority individuals affected by HIV/AIDS. Councilman Tiger.
Committee report, please.
Councilman Stein.
Budget approved 11-4, none against.
Councilman Tiger.
Health hospitals approved 6-0. Move approval.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion passes. RS 2010-1289 approves an amendment to a contract between the Metro Board of Health and the United Way of Nashville to arrange for assistance in various services to minority individuals affected by HIV/AIDS. Councilman Stein.
Committee reports.
Councilman Tiger.
Health hospitals approved 6-0.
Councilman Stein.
Budget approved 11-4, none against. I move approval.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. RS 2010-1290 approves a contract between the Metro Board of Health and Health Communities Institute to purchase a version of the Healthy Communities Network. Councilman Tiger.
Committee report, please.
Councilman Stein.
Budget approved 11-4, none against.
Councilman Tiger.
Health hospitals approved 6-0. Move approval.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. RS 2010-1291 approves an amendment to a grant from the United States Environmental Protection Agency to Metro Board of Health for air pollution data collection. Councilman Stein.
Committee reports.
Councilman Tiger.
Health hospitals approved 6-0.
Councilman Stein.
Budget approved 11-4, none against. I move approval.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion passes. RS 2010-1292 approves a federal grant from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services to the Metro Board of Health for the Healthy Start Initiative. Councilman Stein.
Committee reports.
Councilman Tiger.
Health hospitals approved 6-0.
Councilman Stein.
Budget approved 11-4, none against. I move approval.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion passes. RS 2010-1293 approves a state grant to the Metro Board of Health to facilitate the planning, implementation, and evaluation of health promotion programs. Councilman Stein.
Committee reports.
Councilman Tiger.
Health hospitals approved 6-0.
Councilman Stein.
Budget approved 11-4, none against. I move approval.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion passes. RS 2010-1294 approves a state grant to the Metro Board of Health to provide tender care outreach program services for enrolled children. Councilman Stein.
Committee reports.
Councilman Tiger.
Health hospitals approved 6-0.
Councilman Stein.
Budget approved 11-4, none against. I move approval.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion passes. RS 2010-1295 approves an amendment to a state grant to the Metro Board of Health to provide care coordination services for children's special services programs. Councilman Stein.
Committee reports.
Councilman Tiger.
Health hospitals approved 6-0.
Councilman Stein.
Budget approved 11-4, none against. I move approval.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion passes. RS 2010-1296 approves an annual state grant to the Metro Board of Health to provide an array of local health services. Councilman Tiger.
Committee report, please.
Councilman Stein.
Budget approved, 11-4, none against.
Councilman Tiger.
Health hospitals approved 6-0. Move approval.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion passes. RS 2010-1297 approves a business associate agreement between the Metro Board of Health and Healthy Communities Institute to provide safeguards to prevent the use or disclosure of protected health information. Councilman Stein.
Committee report.
Councilman Tiger.
Health hospitals approved 6-0.
Councilman Stein.
I move approval.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion passes. RS 2010-1298 approves a business associate agreement between the Metropolitan Board of Health and United Way to provide safeguards to prevent the use or disclosure of protected information, health information. Councilman Stein.
Committee report.
Councilman Tiger.
Health hospitals approved 6-0.
Councilman Stein.
I move approval.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. RS 2010-1299 approves a business associate agreement between the Metropolitan Board of Health and Aquinas College to provide safeguards to prevent the use or disclosure of protected health information. Councilman Stein.
Committee report.
Councilman Tiger.
Health hospitals approved 6-0.
Councilman Stein.
Move approval.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion passes. RS 2010-1300 approves a business associate agreement between the Metropolitan Board of Health and Financial Marketing Concepts, Inc. to provide safeguards to prevent the use of or disclosure of protected health information. Councilman Tiger.
Health hospitals committee approved 6-0. I move approval.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Hang in there. RS 2010-1301 approves an application for a child sexual predator program grant from the United States Department of Justice to the Metro Police Department. Councilman Baker.
Committee reports, please.
Councilman Stein.
Budget approved, 11-4, none against.
Councilman Baker.
Public safety approved 4-0. I move approval.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion passes. RS 2010-1302 approves an application for a contribution of an Edward Byrne Memorial Justice Assistant Grant from the United States Department of Justice to the Metro Police Department. Councilman Baker.
Committee reports, please.
Councilman Matthews.
Parks voted 7-4, 0 against.
Councilmember Lalone.
Education voted 9-4, 0 against.
Councilman Stein.
Budget approved, 11-4, none against.
Councilman Baker.
Public safety approved 4-0. I move approval.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. RS 2010-1303 approves an application for a grant from the National Association of Drug Diversion Investigators to the Metro Police Department for the investigation of prescription drug diversion cases. Councilman Baker.
Committee reports, please.
Councilman Stein.
Budget approved, 11-4, none against.
Councilman Baker.
Public safety approved 4-0. I move approval.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. RS 2010-1304 approves an application for a grant from the U.S. Department of Justice to the Metro Police Department for data collection, analysis, and development of a program targeting the effects of children on being exposed to violence. Councilman Baker.
Committee reports, please.
Councilman Stein.
Budget approved, 11-4, none against.
Councilman Baker.
Public safety approved 4-0. I move approval.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. RS 2010-1305 approves an application for a bulletproof vest partnership from the United States Department of Justice to Metropolitan Government. Councilman Stein.
Committee reports.
Councilman Baker.
Public safety approved 4-0.
Councilman Stein.
Budget approved, 11-4, none against. I move approval.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. RS 2010-1306 approves a grant from the Walmart Foundation to the Metro Police Department to help cover expenses associated with the North Precinct's children's camps. Councilman Stein.
Committee reports.
Councilman Baker.
Public safety approved 4-0.
Councilman Stein.
Budget approved 11-4, none against. I move approval.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion passes. RS 2010-1307 approves a grant from the Tennessee Emergency Management Agency to the Metro Police Department to support the ongoing efforts to prevent, respond to, and recover from incidents of terrorism. Councilman Stein.
Committee report.
Councilman Baker.
Public safety approved 4-0.
Councilman Stein.
Budget approved 11-4, none against. I move approval.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion passes. RS 2010-1308 approves a contract between the Tennessee Department of Transportation and Metro Government for traffic signal improvements at Ellington Parkway and East Trinity Lane. Councilmember Benin.
Committee reports, please.
Councilman Hunt.
Public Works passed 5-4-0 against.
Councilman Stein.
Budget approved 11-4, none against.
Councilmember Bennett.
Move for approval, please.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. RS 2010-1309 appropriates $1.8 million to 20 nonprofit organizations selected to receive funding from Metropolitan government through the Community Enhancement Grants. Councilman Stein.
Budget approved 11-4, none against. I move approval.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion passes. RS 2010-1310 authorizes the Department of Law to compromise and settle the lawsuit of Sasha Bay against the Metropolitan government in the amount of $45,000 to be paid out of the Self-Insured Liability Fund. Councilman Stein.
Budget approved 11-4, none against. I move approval.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion passes. RS 2010-1311 authorizes the Department of Law to compromise and settle the lawsuit of Shane W. Boyd against the Metropolitan government in the amount of $18,000 to be paid out of the Self-Insured Liability Fund. Councilman Stein.
Budget approved 11-4, none against. I move approval.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. RS 2010-1312 authorizes the Department of Law to compromise and settle the personal injury claim of Steve McFarland against Metropolitan government in the amount of $9,737.28. Councilman Stein.
Budget approved 11-4, none against. I move approval.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion passes. RS 2010-1313 authorizes the Department of Law to compromise and settle Deborah Peacock's lawsuit against Metropolitan government in the amount of $180,000 to be paid out of the Self-Insured Liability Fund. Councilman Stein.
Budget approved 11-4, none against, and I move approval.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion passes. RS 2010-1314 authorizes the Department of Law to compromise and settle the lawsuit of Nancy Williams against Metropolitan government in the amount of $30,264.34 to be paid from the Judgment and Losses Fund. Councilman Stein.
Budget approved 11-4, none against, and I move approval.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion passes. We're now at bills on introduction and first reading. Councilmember Lalone.
Yes, I wanted to go ahead and pull one bill, BL 2010-717, with a brief explanation, please. And also I wanted to withdraw or defer BL 2010-716 with a brief explanation.
BL 2010-716 amends the Metro Code to restrict the number of temporary road closures an applicant can be granted within a year. Councilmember Lalonde.
Yes, this bill I propose is related to limiting the number of times that one resident can request lane and street closures for private functions. And since its introduction, I've learned of some complexities in the implementation. I really want to not burden public works with unnecessary kind of complications to their job. So I'm working with them. I plan to bring that bill back, but I would like to defer it for now.
Is it a motion for indefinite deferral?
Indefinite deferral.
We have a motion and a second. Councilman Todd, did you want to be recognized on this one? No. Okay. All in favor of indefinite deferral, please say aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. BL 2010-717 amends the Metro Code to prohibit buses on Love Circle. Councilmember Lalonde.
Yes, since taking office a little over a year ago, I have been working with the community on Love Circle on a number of ongoing issues that certainly predate my time there. And I'd introduced this bill in order to prevent kind of inappropriate traffic on a narrow, curvy residential street, which has some special issues related to the Metro Water property that's on the hill. After I introduced the legislation, a constituent pointed out that at one point there had been signs indicating weight restrictions on Love Circle of 5,000 pounds, so that large vehicles were not allowed there. Those signs had come down or been taken down at some point. Upon further investigation, it turns out that those restrictions have indeed been in place since 1982. They were appropriate then. They're appropriate now. They really take care of the kind of issues that I was concerned about, and so they are no longer necessary, and the bill is no longer necessary. So I wanted to go ahead and explain that, and I'd like to make a motion to withdraw that bill, please.
Have a motion and a second. Councilman Todd?
Yes, I wanted to well, I'm actually on the next bill, but 727, I wanted to abstain on that. Just be sure.
On 2010-17?
727.
Okay. Will. Councilman Atkins?
I need to abstain on that bill too, thank you.
We're on 2010-717 right now.
My bill.
And neither of you want to abstain from 717, correct?
No.
Okay.
My bill.
All in favor all in favor of withdrawal of 717, please say aye. Opposed, no.
Thank you.
Motion passes. We're now at all other bills on introduction and first reading. Is there a motion for approval? Is there a second? We have a second. Councilman Todd?
Now you need to abstain.
We both wanted to abstain on 727.
Would you say it now that we're on this motion?
I'd like to abstain on 727. Sorry.
Thank you. Councilman Atkins?
I need to abstain on 727 as well. Thank you.
Thank you. 26 or 27?
Both. 26 and 27. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. All in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. We're now at bills on second reading. Who's handling that? Okay. BL 2009-601 amends the Metro Code to allow parking on both sides of certain narrow streets in the Old Hickory area. Councilman Gatto.
Committee report.
Councilman Birch.
Traffic and Parking voted to approve 8-4-0 against.
Councilman Gatto.
I'd like to defer this one meeting.
Have a motion and a second for a one meeting deferral. All in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. BL 2010-699 amends the Villages of Riverwood Urban Design Overlay District classified RM9 and MUN for 291.8 acres of property located at the southwest corner of Hoggett Ford Road and Dodson Chapel Road to modify the conditions approval in the adopted council ordinance BL 2004-325 to require an updated traffic impact study. Councilman Stanley.
Committee reports, please.
Councilman Gatto.
At the request of the sponsor, the Planning and Zoning Committee voted to defer indefinitely 10-4-0 against.
Thank you. Councilman Stanley.
I would move to defer indefinitely with a couple of brief comments, if I could.
Have a motion and a second. Councilman Stanley.
I appreciate the opportunity to speak to you tonight. One of the things I had, one of the issues that I had with this project, with this bill, is the fact that the Planning Commission unanimously voted it down 9-0 based upon this letter that was sent to them by the different department heads in Metro government. And this letter is full of contradictions. It's a piece of trash. I can't believe the planning department would recommend to the commission. 95% of the time, the commission would vote the way the planning department staff has recommended. And they have recommended that this amendment simply be defeated, disapproved by the Planning Commission. This amendment of mine simply is going to add an additional condition to the Riverwood UDO that was passed by this council in 2005. This condition is simply going to state that the developer will have to submit a new traffic study of the area whenever a new phase of the Riverwood UDO is submitted for approval by the Planning Commission. This new traffic study will keep the Planning Commission, as well as the area citizens and the Metro Councilman that represents that area, updated on the status of the roads. One of the contradictions that this letter that the Planning Commission voted its entire vote on was the fact that any additional condition placed on UDOs would discourage development or discourage investment by developers or financial institutions in Davidson County. They also stated, I will say that the contradiction it has is to the, when they first started this letter, they've said that they want to see the Planning Department, Planning Commission disapprove 7 UDOs. And if that's not a contradiction, I don't know what is. I can't believe the Planning Commission would not contact me and notify me of what they plan to do with this bill. But instead, they listen to these different department heads. I will let everyone know here that on May the 11th of this year, I met with the Department of Public Works, the traffic engineers over there. And they informed me that in 2005, this UDO never should have been approved based upon the minimal conditions that are forced upon the developers by the Metropolitan government. These developers have completed these upgrades to the highway infrastructure. But I will say that all of these upgrades are minimal at best, and they have a difficult time handling the traffic in existence at this time. Dodson Chapel Road is a little 2-lane road. All of the 14,000 additional automobiles generated by this development are going to feed onto Dodson Chapel Road. Metro has no plans to widen or to make any upgrades to Dodson Chapel Road, and the developers, because they are a private institution, they have no plan to do anything to public streets other than what is recommended by this bill. Now, this amendment is going to allow Metro, the council, we are a popularly elected body, to amend any bill. I don't want to see the Planning Commission or Public Works or Water Services or anything like that tell the Metro Council, no, you cannot amend any bill that's been passed by the Metro Council. So with that, I will say that I'm going to have a meeting on Thursday with the Metro Legal Department, attorneys from Metro Legal Department, and Mr. Cooper. We'll be meeting up at the council staff office. I will get information to all of the members of the council after I have received the answers to the questions. So with that, I just ask that you disapprove at this time, this be deferred indefinitely at this time. Thank you.
second for indefinite deferral. All in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. Indefinite deferral passes. RS 2010-710 amends the Metro Code pertaining to the location restrictions for issuance of permits to sell beer within certain areas of downtown. Councilman Jamison.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Committee report.
Councilman Baker.
Public safety approved 4-0.
Thank you. Councilman Jamison.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Move approval.
Have a motion and a second. Councilman Claiborne.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I have a question for Mr. Cooper. Mr. Cooper, is this request something that would normally come through a beer PUD request?
If the existing beer PUD procedure were to be followed, then yes. But due to some timing issues and other issues associated with the downtown area, this is being brought as an amendment to the beer code.
So in essence, if we pass this, we are circumventing the purpose or the intent of the beer PUD. Is that an accurate statement?
The beer PUD provisions remain intact. This is just an alternative way of accomplishing the same goal.
So they don't have to pay the beer PUD application fee?
There was no application fee involved with an amendment to the beer code text, as any council member can propose.
With respect to the sponsor, I'm going to vote against this, simply on principle. If we have a process in place that's been adopted by this council for the establishment of this kind of procedure, then I think we ought to follow it and not make exceptions on an individual basis. And so, with respect to the sponsor, I will be voting against this and call for a machine vote.
Councilman Crafton.
Thank you. I just want to be recorded as no.
Councilman Jamison.
There's a background to this that I owe, I guess, Councilman Claiborne. And if he had approached me with that concern, I would have shared the following with him. Like many of you who were born and raised in Nashville, you look at downtown with renewed pride from where it came in the late 70s and early 80s, when it was filled with peep shows and prostitutes and drug deals. And to have to catch the bus in the middle of that when you're going to school, and to see the resurgence that it's had in the last 20, 25 years, with the support of several mayors, including especially Mayor Dean. You're grateful for that. And what you look for, however, is concerns that maybe the pendulum is going to start tipping the other way. And I wake up sometimes literally thinking about that scene in It's a Wonderful Life when George Bailey was in Bedford Falls, but he wakes up in Potterville and he sees things that are tame by today's standards, but he sees peep shows and burlesque shows and casinos, and he's worried that maybe the city's going in the wrong direction. In recent years, we've seen some franchise liquor establishments open downtown that frankly worry me about the direction it could go so easily in the opposite direction. Out-of-state corporate franchises with names like the Wild Beaver Saloon, Coyote Ugly, and Hooters. We've had tourists tell us that unless your kids drink, there's not much for them to do downtown. So it was in that setting that this opportunity came. And what I mean by this opportunity is that this is a bill that will allow Puckett's Grocery and Restaurant to establish at the former Amy's at St. Cloud Corner, a site that's been vacant for months. This is a family-owned restaurant. The Marshall family is here, ready and willing to meet with members of the Public Safety Committee and with all of you. And when I went to meet with Mr. Marshall for the first time, his entire family was working the restaurant. His daughter was working the cash register. His sons and daughters were waiters, waitresses, cooks. It's a completely family-owned restaurant. They have a location now off the square in Franklin. And it struck me as the antidote to what could be happening downtown. So with Mr. Cooper's help, we drafted the most tightly confined allowance of this sort, because this is a restaurant that, although it's family-owned, quite clearly authentic, it, like gas stations and grocery stores, does sell beer, only for on-site consumption. So it was crafted as tightly as possible. And then, with the help of their attorney, Dan Haskell, we went to the 3 groups that struck us as having the greatest voice in this measure, the very same kind of groups you would go to for a beer PUD. We went to the most relevant neighborhood association, the Urban Residents Association. We went to the relevant business group, the Downtown Partnership. And we went to the nearest church, the Downtown Presbyterian Board. And not only did all of them convene and meet and approve this specifically, they all sent letters to all of you. So the beer PUD process was by no means circumvented, and this is an opportunity to address a greater good, and rather than get hung up in a technicality based on some fee that you may think we're missing. So with that, I vehemently and strongly and passionately ask for your approval. Thank you.
Councilman Gatto.
Thank you, Madam Vice Mayor. Mr. Cooper, I have a couple of questions. Could this possibly set a precedent to circumvent the beer PUD process in the future?
Well, I mean, the council has the discretion. If a district council member had a particular location, and keep in mind this is it's an area of downtown. It's not just this one restaurant. It's a very small area of downtown. But if a district council member wanted to do that for any other property, then that's certainly an option. So, I mean, it is an option that is open to any district council member that desires to propose an amendment to the beer code.
Do we have exposure from a future applicant that comes and they want to do it, and the council member says, well, you have to do a beer PUD, and they say, well, no, I want to do it this way, and we insist on a beer PUD, could we possibly be sued? Would we be at legal risk there of losing that?
I looked at that issue initially. That was my first thought, and I wanted to make sure that we were okay. I talked to the attorney that has represented the beer board in a number of cases, and am confident that the council would win any such legal challenge. But I mean, it is setting an exception to the beer distance requirements. I mean, that's the purpose of it.
I guess I'm a little unclear, and I understand the sponsor's intent, and I appreciate what he was saying. I too like the way downtown has changed. But having said that, you know, the beer PUD is in place because, number one, it gives us control. We still have control here, but this allows no public hearing on this. And while I don't question the validity of the statements that the councilman has said, that he went and talked to the neighbors and they were okay with this, I still think it's sets a dangerous precedent to walk away from it. And quite frankly, I haven't heard a good explanation as to why the beer PUD process wasn't pursued. So I don't know. This is second reading. I may vote for this tonight, but on third reading, I'm going to have to think about this long and hard. Thank you.
Councilmember Langster.
Thank you, Madam Vice Mayor. Ladies and gentlemen, I rise in support of this bill. I have been to Franklin, to the Puckett family store. It's real nice. It's someplace where you could take a young child. It's someplace that you would enjoy going to. It's a family restaurant. It's not going to be anything on the outside like some places we have approved where you can sit out and drink your can of beer. Everything is going to be on the inside. It's going to bring people back to downtown Nashville, and that's the goal of what we want. We want nice, clean businesses back down downtown in Nashville. This is going to be a good family restaurant for you to go to some Sunday afternoon or some weekday for lunch. I'm telling you, if you don't believe it, just take a drive to Williamson County, go to Franklin, and you don't have to get out your car. Just look and see what you see, and then come back and drive to Fifth and Church, and you can visualize the same thing. An enjoyable, family-oriented restaurant. Thank you. I ask you to vote for it.
Councilman Forcom.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I want clarification from Mr. Cooper about one that's coming up, 714. We talk about approving these bills being whether by PUD or whether we're doing it by council here, and this other one, 714, is, if I read it right, will be done by council resolution. And that's the one, I've stood up in years past about, common walls and that sort of thing, doing away with distance. Can you separate the two for me, 710, 714?
710 is a specific exception to the beer distance requirements for this particular area of downtown. 714 would do away with the beer PUD in its entirety, and in its place would allow the council by resolution to exempt areas.
So basically, if 714 passed, there'd be no need for 710.
That's correct.
Okay.
But the way they're written, they both could pass.
Yeah, okay.
I mean, that was intentional.
If that's the way it reads, then I'll probably have to vote no for both. I just want to make sure that I understood that, and that's the way I did understand it. And if both of them exempted, and again, I got into the common law, I've stood up about 5 different times over the last 7 years about that common law thing, which the other councilman here stood with me for that specific instance in my district. But anyway, thank you.
Councilman Cole.
Thank you, Madam Vice Mayor. I'm sorry, Councilman. We haven't had any conversation about this property or this project. I am familiar with the venue and with the family involved and agree it's a top-notch thing. But, John, I want to make you do a little bit more work. Under existing beer PUD and our council rules, if I wanted to do a beer PUD, had a building I was going to buy and convert and wanted to be able to, had to go through the beer PUD process, when would that be first heard, going forward, if we filed it today? Under our existing rules?
If you filed it today, it would first have to be filed with the Planning Commission.
Right.
So you're looking at the November public hearing. I mean, it's about a 7 month process.
In just about every case, it's a 6 or 7 month process, correct, plus the fee for the planned unit development, plus engineering drawings that have to take place. I mean, folks, I think this is illustrative of the larger issue here, and the issue is not trying to eliminate public input or eliminate our role or a role of council members to mitigate the bad actors in these situations. It's to improve the situation, and I'm supportive. I don't know if that helps Councilman Jameson that I'm supportive of this or not, but I'm supportive of this, and I hope you'll give a good look at 714 too. Thank you.
Councilman Foster.
Thank you, Madam Vice Mayor. I'm generally supportive of this particular bill, but I had a question for Mr. Cooper because I think perhaps for this kind of extraordinary circumstance that's outside of the normal bid PUD scenario, maybe there is something of a solution for us to get public input on third reading. I'd like to ask you a question about Rule 31, if I could, which is the rule regarding the public addressing council. And I'll read it quickly. Members of the public may address the council by a 2/3 vote of the council members present. This restriction does not apply to zoning matters where all parties concerned shall be allowed to speak for 3 minutes each. The Metropolitan clerk shall keep time in accordance with this rule. My question is, could I make a motion tonight that would be binding at the next when this matter is heard on third reading for this kind of matter, or does the motion need to be made then?
The motion would need to be made then. I mean, if you wanted to make it tonight, then someone could, from the public, could speak, but it's not been announced.
I guess my suggestion through the chair to the sponsor might be, if I yield balance of my time to him, if he might make a commitment to make that motion at the next meeting. If the council wills or nils, that's their decision then, but it would give us the opportunity then at this meeting to say to the public, any who want to come and speak, they could if the council's willing to hear them then. So I'll yield the balance of my time to the sponsor.
Councilman Jamison.
Thank you, Vice Mayor, and thank you, Councilman Foster. I think that's a very wise and honorable suggestion, and I will commit to do that tonight. So thank you.
Councilman Claiborne.
Thank you. I just wanted to reiterate that my objection is strictly on principle. I have been to Puckett's Grocery, and I understand the venue that they are attempting to come into downtown Nashville with. I don't dispute what Councilman Cole had to say about the process, but it is a process that's in place. And on principle, we are stepping around our own legislation. And that's the position that I'm at. It has nothing to do with any individual or the business. It's strictly a matter of principle.
Councilman Stein.
Question.
Second. Have a motion and a second. All in favor of previous question, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Previous question passes. I have had one request for a machine vote. I need 3 more. We will have a machine vote. Madam Clerk.
Ayes 27, noes 7, 1 abstention.
Motion passes. Councilman Gatto.
Thank you, Madam Vice Mayor. I don't know if this is an appropriate point of order. If not, just tell me and I'll ask later. But Mr. Cooper, given the commitment, how will the public be notified of the hearing that's going to occur 2 weeks from now?
Well, I mean, since no public hearing is required, I mean, the notice given tonight would be sufficient. I mean, since it's not a legal requirement for public hearing. So this would be the public notice that the public will be invited to speak at the next meeting. Correct.
Next is 2010-711, abandons a 20-foot water and sanitary sewer easement in connection with the Hermitage Commons 3 LLC at 5231 and 5215 Old Hickory Boulevard. Councilmember Stanley.
I will give it to Councilman Hunt. He was a co-sponsor and he covered that bill for me.
Councilman Hunt.
Yes, I'd like the extra committee report, please.
Councilman Gatto.
Planning and Zoning approved 10-4-0 against.
Councilman Hunt.
Public Works approved 5-4-0 against, and I move for approval.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. BL 2010-712 abandons a 10-foot public utility easement in connection with the 915 Otter Creek Road. Councilman Todd.
Committee reports.
Councilman Gatto.
Planning and Zoning approved 10-4-0 against.
Councilman Hunt.
Public Works approved 5-4-0 against.
Councilman Todd.
Move approval.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. BL 2010-713 amends ordinance number BL 2010-689 to extend the deadline for the waiver of permit fees when obtaining a permit for repairing or rebuilding property damaged as a result of the May 2010 flooding. Councilman Ryman.
Committee report.
Councilman Stein.
Budget approved 11-4, none against.
Councilman Ryman.
Codes Committee approved as amended 6-4-0 against. And at this time, I'd like to ask for a suspension of the rules in order to submit an amendment.
Is there any objection to a suspension of the rules? Seeing none, Councilman Ryman.
The amendment at the request of the Codes Department would move the date from June the 30th, 2011 to December the 31st, 2010. So I move for approval.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor of the amendment, please say aye. Opposed, no. The amendment passes. Councilman Ryman.
I move for approval as amended.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. Next is BL 2010-714, amends the Metro Code to exempt restaurants that possess a valid license issued by the Tennessee Alcoholic Beverage Commission for on-premises sale and consumption of alcoholic beverages from the minimum distance requirements for obtaining beer permits upon the adoption of a resolution by the Metropolitan Council. Councilman Holland.
Committee report.
Councilman Baker.
Public Safety voted to defer second meeting in August 4-0.
Councilman Holland.
Move to defer to the second meeting in August.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. BL 2010-715 amends the Metro Code pertaining to the documentation and storage of vehicles at automobile repair and service establishments. Councilman Gatto.
Committee report.
Councilman Baker.
Public Safety approved 4-0.
Councilman Stein.
Budget approved 11-4, none against.
Councilman Gatto.
Move approval.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. BL 2010-718 repeals the existing solid waste provisions in the Metro Code and substitutes them with a new solid waste code recommended by Department of Public Works. Councilman Hunt.
Madam Vice Mayor, I'd like to request deferral on this bill for one meeting.
Okay, let me get committee reports first. Councilman Stein. Sorry.
Budget and Finance voted to defer 11-4, none against.
Thank you, Councilman Hunt.
And Public Works voted to defer one meeting, 5-4-0 against. And I move for deferment.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor of a one meeting deferral, please say aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. BL 2010-719 approves the amendments to contracts in lieu of performance bonds between Metro Government and the State Department of Environment and Conservation regarding the maintenance of closed solid waste facilities. Councilman Stein.
Committee report.
Councilman Hunt.
Public Works approved 5-4-0 against.
Councilman Stein.
Budget approved 11-4, none against. I move approval.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion passes. BL 2010-720 authorizes the Industrial Development Board of the Metropolitan Government to negotiate and accept payments in lieu of ad valorem taxes with respect to the LKQ Corporation Keystone Automotive. Councilman Stein.
Budget approved 11-4, none against. I move approval.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion passes. BL 2010-721 approves the lease agreement between the state and the Metropolitan Government for use of a portion of the Tennessee Preparatory School campus at 1250 Foster Avenue for the Nashville School of the Arts Magnet. Councilmember Page.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Committee reports, please.
Councilman Gatto.
Planning and Zoning approved 10-4-0 against.
Councilmember Lalone.
Education Committee approved 9-4-0 against.
Councilman Stein.
Budget approved 11-4, none against.
Councilmember Page.
Thank you. I move approval.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. BL BL 2010-722 accepts the donation of 2 Volkswagen Rutan minivans from the Volkswagen Group of America, Inc. to the Metropolitan government for use by the Department of General Services. Councilman Stein.
Budget voted to accept the minivans, 11-4, none against, and I move approval.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion passes. BL 2010-723 authorizes the Metropolitan government to enter into a participation agreement with Tennessee Contractors, Inc. to contribute to the cost of providing public sewer service to the Fountain Brook subdivision in Williamson County. Councilman Stein.
Committee report.
Councilman Hunt.
Public Works approved, 5-4, 0 against.
Councilman Stein.
Budget 11-4, none against, and I move approval.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion passes. BL 2010-724 amends the official street and alley acceptance and maintenance map for the Metropolitan government by abandoning a portion of Lena Bell Avenue and an unnumbered alley. Councilman Forcum.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Committee reports.
Councilman Gatto.
Planning and Zoning approved 10-4, 0 against.
Councilman Birch.
Traffic and Parking voted to approve 8-4, 0 against.
Councilman Hunt.
Public Works approved, 5-4, 0 against.
Councilman Forcum.
Move approval.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. We're now at bills on third reading. The first is BL 2010-663, changes 91.67 acres from AR2A to SP zoning for properties located at 6887 and 6891 Burkett Road and at Kidd Road unnumbered to permit 374 single-family lots. Councilman Toller.
Thank you, Madam Vice Mayor. Are all the committee reports in? I believe all are in. All committee reports are in. I have an amendment. The amendment deals with various conditions related to the road improvement, street trees, and traffic signals, and those kind of things. I would like to move the amendment.
We have a motion and a second on the amendment. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Amendment passes. Councilman Toller.
Thank you. I'd like to move the bill as amended.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. BL 2010-664 changes 1.06 acres from OR20 to NIWD to SP zoning for properties located at 401, 403, 405, and 407 Veritas Street and a portion of property located at 410 Allied Drive to permit a one-story office and warehouse addition. Councilmember Page.
Thank you. I believe all committee reports are in, and I have an amendment.
Okay. Councilmember.
I'd like to move the bill as amended.
We have a motion on the amendment. Is there a second? All in favor of the amendment, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Amendment passes. Councilmember Page.
I'd like to move the amendment move the bill as amended.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. BL 2010-671 changes 4.29 acres from R20 to CS zoning for property located at 7552 Sawyer Brown Road. Councilman Crafton.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I'm going to move approval with a brief explanation.
I need to get a committee report
okay,
from Councilman Gatto.
Planning and Zoning approved 10-4, 0 against.
Thank you, Councilman Crafton.
Don't go anywhere. This is a disapproved bill. Normally I would just move approval, but I need 27 votes, and I want to tell you why. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm on the wrong one. Move approval.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes.
That was Councilman Lancaster's fault. She turned the page on my agenda.
Now, BL 2010-672 cancels 3.37 acres of a commercial plan unit development district zoned R40 and proposed for CL located at 7734 Highway 70 South. And BL 2010-673 changes 3.37 acres from R40 to SP zoning for property located within the floodplain overlay district at 7734 Highway 70 South. We're taking both of those together, Councilman. Councilman Crafton.
Committee reports, please.
Councilman Gatto.
Planning and Zoning approved 10-4, 0 against.
Councilman Crafton.
Thank you. Move approval with a not so brief explanation.
Second.
Do you want to offer the amendment first?
Okay, I thought we attached that at the planning. Okay, well, let's offer it in. I thought it was already done. Yeah, I want to offer the amendment.
We have an amendment on BL 2010-673.
And I can explain the amendment. Last council meeting, Councilman Jernigan stated that he was working on a citywide or countywide stormwater change to the code, and so all I've done, I've talked with him yesterday, and he was in favor of this. I've just said that if approved, the approval will abide by whatever code they get in place by October 1st. That's 90 or 100 days, and he was fine with that. So I just wanted to do that out of respect to the work he's trying to do on the stormwater for the city.
We have a motion and a second on the amendment to 673. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion on the amendment passes. Councilman Crafton.
Thank you. This has been a very tough piece of property. Actually, it has been pretty much in this condition since I took office the first time in 1995. And it's been a very difficult piece of property to develop because it's got three things working at once. First, it's got a residential zoning. Second, it's got an office transition sub-area plan overlay, and then now third, it's got a commercial PUD overlay on top of all that. So anytime somebody's tried to come and do something, it's been a non-starter because of all these different layers that didn't match. So the community and the owner approached me to do something about this, and the owner originally wanted to do a straight CL zoning and remove the PUD and do away with the residential zoning. So we started that way, and then after we had our first community meeting, I can't remember whether it was in February or March at the Y, we had about 40 or 50 people there. We decided that we didn't want to do a straight zoning because now that we have the SP, you're able to get some more control, architectural control, permitted uses, that type of thing. So instead of making the applicant refile and lose his permit fee, we decided the easiest way would be just to go ahead and do an SP and cancel that the commercial zoning and a request to cancel the PUD. So we appointed working groups there's 4 subdivisions in that. I think there's around 250 or 300 homes. Anybody that wanted to participate in the working group could attend. We had 3 2-hour meetings on this with Dale and Associates. They're the civil engineer on this. And the second to last meeting, we actually met with and went through the permitted uses of CL and CN line by line, and people voted yes or no. And so on the actual plan, it actually states all the uses that are permitted and not permitted. And so when we got to the Planning Commission, due to timing, they didn't have the final plan, because I submitted a substitute bill at the public hearing last time, which there was unanimous approval by the audience. Nobody was in opposition. Nobody's in opposition now. But when we got to the Planning Commission, they hadn't had time to get that substitute, number one. And number two, as a matter of principle, they nearly always vote for a disapproval when it's contrary to the sub-area plan. So I actually asked them to leave it on the consent agenda, vote to disapprove it, instead of having to restart the process, because I felt like, after I explained to you the process that we'd gone through and the fact that the neighbors, wholeheartedly support this, and they're looking forward to, getting the old building there that hadn't been used and redeveloped to have something nice to the entrance to their neighborhood. I just hope you'll honor the work that they've done, and I hope I can get a unanimous approval on this tonight.
Councilman, I just want your motion is to approve 672 and to approve 673 as amended.
That's correct.
We have a motion and a second. We need a machine vote. Madam Clerk.
Ayes 35, no 0, 1 abstention.
672 and 673 pass. Next is BL 2010-682, amends the official street and alley acceptance and maintenance map by abandoning a portion of 43rd Avenue North and a portion of Alley 1203. Councilmember Baker.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. At this time, I'd like to defer this
Councilman Gatto.
committee report, please. Planning and zoning approved by a vote of 4-4, 3 against.
Thank you, Councilman Baker.
At this time, I'd like to defer this indefinitely.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor of indefinite deferral, please say aye. Opposed, no. Indefinite deferral passes. Next is BL 2010-695, approves the Tennessee Code, which permits proration of annual real property tax assessments of certain properties affected by a disaster certified by the Federal Emergency Management Agency. Councilman Stein.
I move approval with a brief explanation.
Have a motion and a second. Councilman?
I want to call the council's attention. This vote requires a minimum of 27 votes. This is the legislation that the state legislature passed, allowing us as a local government to prorate property taxes for those folks that have been the very hardest hit by the recent disaster. And I think this is one of the things that we can point to that will actually give some folks some help, and I urge everyone's support.
We're going to need a machine vote. We have a motion and a second. Madam Clerk.
Ayes 34, no 0.
Motion passes. BL 2010-696 amends the official street and alley acceptance and maintenance map for the Metropolitan government by abandoning a portion of Ackland Avenue and a portion of alley number 436. Councilmember Berry.
With all committee reports in, I move approval.
Have a motion and a second. Councilmember Lalone.
Yes, I need to be shown as abstaining on this vote, please.
So noted. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no.
That's why I had to do it.
Motion passes. BL 2010-697 amends the official street and alley acceptance and maintenance map by abandoning a portion of Shelby Avenue. Councilman Jameson.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. With all committees having approved, I move approval.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. BL 2010-698 changes .18 acres from RS 7.5 to SP zoning for property located at 4414 West Lawn Drive to permit single-family residential, medical, and general office uses within an existing single-family structure. Councilman Holloman.
Move to defer one meeting.
Councilman Gatto, committee report,
please.
Planning and zoning voted to approve 10-4-0 against.
Thank you, Councilman Holloman.
Move to defer one meeting.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor of one meeting deferral, please say aye. Opposed, no. One meeting deferral passes. BL 2010-700 applies a neighborhood landmark district to .76 acres of property zoned RS-15 located at 358 Bellevue Road. Councilman Crafton.
Committee report.
Councilman Gatto.
Planning and zoning approved 10-4-0 against.
Councilman Crafton.
Move approval.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. BL 2010-701 changes 8.96 acres from R15 to SP zoning for properties located at 1282 and 1300 Rural Hill Road to permit 89-unit multifamily residential development. Councilman Domine.
Move approval.
Councilman Gatto.
Planning and zoning approved 10-4-0 against.
Councilman Domine.
Move approval. Appreciate your support.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion passes. BL 2010-702 applies a neighborhood landmark district to 1.26 acres of property zoned RS5 located at 108 and 112 Lena Bell Avenue. Councilman Forcum.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Committee report.
Councilman Gatto.
Planning and zoning approved 10-4, 0 against.
Councilman Forcum.
I move for approval.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. Without objection, we'll take BL 2010-703 and 704 together. BL 2010-703 cancels 6.6 acres of the Rosedown Residential Plan Unit Development District zoned RS10 and propose for AR2A for property located at 6515 Holt Road. BL 2010-704 changes 6.6 acres from RS10 to AR2A zoning for property located at the Rosedown Residential Plan Unit Development Overlay at 6515 Holt Road. Councilman Toller.
Thank you, Madam Vice Mayor. I believe all committee reports are in.
Need one more. Councilman Gatto.
Okay. Excuse me. Planning and zoning approved 10-4, 0 against.
Thank you, Councilman Toller.
Thank you. With the committee report in, I move for approval. Thank you.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no.
It's okay.
No, it was not a no vote. BL 2010-705 cancels 0.64 acres from the Dinwiddie Square Residential Plan Unit Development District Overlay zoned RS 7.5 for properties located at 2401 Fairfax Avenue and at Fairfax Avenue unnumbered. Councilmember Lalone.
Committee reports, please.
Councilman Gatto.
Planning and zoning approves 10-4, 0 against.
Councilmember Lalone.
With the committee report in, I move approval.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. BL 2010-706 changes 8.32 acres from R10 to SP zoning for properties located at 4243 and 4301 Hermitage Road to permit an assisted living facility. Councilman Gatto.
Committee report.
It's you.
Planning and zoning approved 10-4, 0 against. And I'd like to move approval.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. BL 2010-707 changes 3.99 acres from R10 to SP zoning for properties located at Salone Drive unnumbered and at Rosebank Avenue unnumbered north of Carter Avenue to permit 15 single-family dwelling units. Councilman Cole.
Thank you, Madam Vice Mayor. Committee reports, please.
Councilman Gatto.
Planning and zoning approved 10-4, 0 against.
Councilman Cole.
I move approval.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. RS 2010-708 changes 3.09 acres from RM9 and RM20 to R8 zoning for properties located at 2113 Cliff Drive and Cliff Drive unnumbered north of Clarksville Pike. Councilman Harrison.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Committee report, please.
Councilman Gatto.
Planning and zoning approved 10-4, 0 against.
Councilman Harrison.
Move for approval.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. RS 2010-1315 requests the Tennessee Congressional Delegation to investigate the flood management efforts by the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers during the first week of May 2010. Councilman Holland.
Committee report.
Councilman Hunt.
At the request of the sponsor, this bill in the committee was withdrawn.
Move to withdraw.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor of withdrawal, please say aye. Opposed, no. Motion to withdraw passes. RS 2010-1316 endorses the Police Officer Bill of Rights. Councilman Crafton.
Committee report.
Councilman Baker.
Public safety approved, 3 in favor, 1 abstention.
Thank you. Councilman Crafton.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I'll just make it real quick. We all know that we appreciate what the police do. Not too long ago, they published a report or survey of their members, and what was startling to me was the fact that almost 90% of them listed their #1 cause of stress is the way disciplinary matters were handled and the bureaucracy worked in the police department. So they've come up with some things that they feel like would help them, help their morale there on duty. And so I just wanted to go on record, as I know everybody here does, that we support them and the job they do. Thank you.
All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. Next is RS 2010-1317, requests the mayor and the Board of Parks and Recreation to consider planting a live evergreen tree at Public Square Park for the use as the annual official Metro government Christmas tree. Councilmember Benin.
Since it's the last item on the agenda, I will skip the jokes and go straight to committee meetings, please, or committee reports,
Councilman
please.
Matthews.
This was deferred by rule in Parks.
Councilmember Benin.
I request a 1-meeting deferral and request that they have a better chorus of Christmas songs for me next time.
All in favor of a 1-meeting deferral, please say aye.
Thank you.
Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.